Okay, I think we're there. Jamie, if you'd like, we can get started.
Yeah, we can crack on now. As long as Vin, if you could accept any other people that are joining whilst we're going through the webinar,
Absolutely.
that'd be fantastic.
Absolutely.
So
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Saving Money by Investing in IT short webinar and presentation by Jamie, who is our new business executive here at Xero. We hope you find the information useful. There will be an opportunity for some questions, which we'll gladly answer for you. And anything else you want to share with us, we'll want to make this as open and as interactive as possible. So I'd like to introduce you to Jamie. Thank you.
awesome. Thank you, Vin, and good morning, everyone. And again, thank you ever so much for taking the time out to join us in the webinar today. So what I wanted to discuss today, guys, was an element which I think has been on quite a few people's mind, both at home and in business. And I can safely say that it's been a worry for me as of late as well, as I'm sure I'm probably speaking on everyone's behalf there. But really, it's an element of how we can actually save money in this ferocious economy that we're in at the moment. And I'm sure you'd all agree with me that the next 6 to 12, 18, 24 months is probably going to get tougher before it gets easier. So what can we really do as companies to save money where possible without really having that detrimental effect to the overall operation and the performance of your business? And I think that the main key here to remember, guys, is that you can save money by investing in IT. And it starts off with a couple of different elements, really. So there's a lot of ways you can save money with small investments in IT and technology. A lot of these investments, whether small or large, can actually often provide return of investment within the first 12 months. And some of these changes, like I say, can just be a change of mindset. It may just be a case where you need to change the thought process of your business, how you're operating, the office space that you have, the type of staff that you have, etc. And also the processes within the company as well, and whether anything can be automated in that sense. So we're going to be touching on a couple of different elements, and it's all of this has been generated from the conversations that I've been having over the last 2, 3, maybe 4 months, ever since Rishi Sunak and the government announced the budget earlier on this year, where energy costs were going through the roof. Everybody's been looking at how you can really save them pennies in order to save the pounds. So one of the biggest elements that I've been discussing with people at the moment is the potential of migrating to the cloud, and this can look very different for every single company out there. And as I mentioned in the previous webinar, and we've done various blogs on this as well, cloud is not right for everybody at this moment in time, but I'm sure it will be true, will come true for people in the future where it is the right fit for businesses. But if you can migrate to the cloud, I would encourage you to definitely explore that avenue in terms of saving money. And there's a lot of additional benefits that comes with that cloud migration, not just saving money, but in terms of how you operate as a business and the additional benefits around that as well. So first of all, the expenditure for a new server. We all dread when you hit that 5, 7 year life cycle there where your on-premise tin needs renewing. You're looking at a small server these days, 8,000 to 9,000 pound. If you're a larger organization and you have multiple servers which are coming up for renewal, you could be looking at 10, 15, 20,000 pound per piece of kit to replace that across the board. Now, the benefit of cloud, first and foremost, is you change that expenditure model from a capex to an opex model. So you actually build it into your monthly operating costs as a business itself, which, in a sense, what I found over the last 3 to 6 months is that cloud can often be a more cost-effective version of a server infrastructure, even when you total the cost up over a 36-month period. It turns out that you're still saving £3,000 to £4,000 in terms of that investment itself, in comparison to purchasing that server outright. But another benefit, as previously mentioned, you're on the operating expenditure model, so it is just a monthly expenditure. There's no need to go out and try and find 20, 30, 40,000 pound to invest in the new server infrastructure itself, and then have to revisit that in another 5 to 7 years. And that's not even including the element of any maintenance in the meantime that's required on that physical piece of hardware. So RAM replacement, new hard drives, RAIDs failing, etc. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong with that physical piece of equipment that you own, that you also have to that you're responsible to replace as well periodically. Another big feature of this, which I've actually brought to a couple of my clients' attentions recently, is you've got no need to self-power that server. So you haven't got that server running around the clock on your using your premise energy. You know, you haven't got that round the clock electricity bill 24/7. Because unlike humans, servers never sleep. You know, they do operate 24/7, 365, and you have to take that into consideration when you're looking at your energy usage. And an interesting fact here is that an on-premise server, now we're looking at a small business server, single socket to power, it actually costs roughly £35 per day to power that around the clock. Sometimes it can be more if it's operating at higher capacity at peak times. But a double socket server can almost be as 3 times as much as that and cost anywhere between 105 and 110 pounds per day to power. And you've got to appreciate that as soon as that power goes off, then that's the server infrastructure, unless you have a fairly good UPS in place as well. That server infrastructure goes down. You're also looking at operational downtime as well. It was a massive thing for me to realize that you know, servers are costing so much to power around the clock per day, and when you add that up over the course of a month or a year, on a monthly basis, if you've got a double socket server, can be in the region of £2,000 to £2,500 per month. You add that up over the course of the year, and you look at in excess of £20,000 just to power the server infrastructure to people to work on a daily basis. Now, if you flip that into a cloud-based model, the actual energy usage is built into that cost that you see as a customer on a monthly basis. So you have no worry whatsoever of using too much power, your bill going from 200 to 600 to maybe £2,000 a month or more, which I've seen quite recently, some bills coming in at huge amounts. But the element of this is you get to save that money. It's built into that operating cost as a business.
Jamie, just to add to that, I think it's worth mentioning,
Of course.
considering the aspect of capital expenditure. In the past, people have invested on new infrastructure or new servers, new equipment and licenses to cater for expected growth. So sometimes they've been overpaying for kit or hardware or capacity that they never get to use. And the difference with an OpEx cloud model, from our perspective, is the fact that the user is then, or the company rather, is paying only for what they need as they need it. So there isn't that big commitment to hardware expense upfront. And that's why the cloud becomes more scalable and certainly more energy efficient.
You've very much hit the nail on the head, and thank you, Vin, to be honest, because that's an element that I did kind of forget about. There is the element of cloud being scalable upon demand. So there's no need to future plan for that rate of growth. You know, there's no need to get a server that can incorporate, let's say, 200 users and the data that comes with them users. We can just scale that as you grow. So definitely, Vin, you've hit the nail on the head. Definitely a fact worth mentioning there when you look at server infrastructure and cost to scale that solution itself. So thank you ever so much. Touching on to the next slide. So kind of going hand in hand with the server migration is how we can automate, processes, how we can automate solutions, even to the point of automating human tasks and positions within companies. So automating person-heavy tasks is something to definitely take into consideration there. An example of this I could give, which we've recently done for a client, is implemented a new telephony solution. They had a person on reception, physically answering calls, popping through to accounts, through to projects, so on and so forth. We basically mitigated the need for that person to be sat on reception and answering them calls. That person is now doing a different task, which is delivering more value for that company itself. But what they've done is, by automating that role, which I think was a very minor investment of £5,000 or £6,000 initially, they've actually saved the full role there, which was costing them £22,000 as a basic role, a telephony receptionist. But you can go even further and beyond that as well there. So, for example, if you've got operating some manufacturing equipment which is manually powered, mainly there's a slight elements of automation there, but not enough to be fully automated. For an example, you may have 3 people operating that machine at one time, and there's 3 different shifts over a course of 24 hours to keep that machine in constant operation. Now, let's just say, for example, that operator, that member of staff, costs you £50,000 per shift. So overall, your operating cost for that piece of machinery is £450,000, or maybe in excess, depending on the skill set that you've got working on that machine. But a company like ourselves, or another MSP, or another business out there, comes to you with an idea and has found a way to automate that process. But the cost for that is £400,000 up front and a small monthly maintenance fee to carry that forward. But what you need to do is sit back and take a look at the maths and the potential return of investment in the future as well. And what you need to look at is, by fully automating that machine, you may require a lesser skilled person operating that machine, which you can, let's just say, for example, I put here, you can invest for £35,000 per annum rather than 50. So you're saving money in terms of staff expenditure to start off with. But then in the first year alone, your return of investment is £15,000, because you're saving on all the additional staff members powering that machine. You've got a lesser skilled person monitoring the situation now, because automation has taken effect and it's taken control of what's going on. So essentially what you've done in that first year alone is you've got a return of investment of £15,000. You're in profit by £15,000 by investing in that solution itself. But in the second year, this is where the magic does happen. In the second year, you have no purchase cost. You don't have the same cost as you had last year as £400,000. The only thing you have is that small maintenance cost, and then £35,000 per annum for that staff member being involved on that machinery. So in effect, your company is benefiting in the second year by £415,000, because you've reduced the amount of staff needed to carry out that specific task within your organization. You've reduced them down from 9 people down to 1. But with that as well, the machine that is operating, or the solution that's operating, is running a lot more seamlessly now as well. It's running around the clock, fully automated, with only 1 person needed to kind of keep a close eye on the situation and make sure everything's running effectively as it should. Vin, anything there in terms of automation? I know you've done a lot in the past, my friend, in terms of automating infrastructures and using Microsoft Power Apps, for example. Oh, I think you're on mute, Vin. You're still on mute.
Yes, there we go. Finally,
There
at
we go.
last.
It wouldn't be a webinar
Apologies.
without the old "you're on mute" situation. So
Yeah, well, you know what? There are multiple mute buttons on this system, so you can have an infinite combination. It's interesting. You're quite right. Power Apps, very, very powerful, and a lot of companies and users using 365, they don't even realize that they've got access to really powerful application-driven automation tools. Power Apps are an absolute game changer, and the idea around automation is not necessarily always about saving costs. A lot of companies need to find efficiencies, become more productive, and in order to stay competitive, they need to do things in a more quick and efficient manner. And automation drives that. It's all part of the whole digital transformation journey.
fantastic. To be honest, Vin, I think it kind of falls on a thing that we've done for a customer in the past, where we implemented a holiday booking system through Power Apps. Rather than having that 1 person there kind of monitoring people raising annual leave requests, punching that into a spreadsheet, we built on that feature into a Microsoft Power App, so everything was automated, and you can then get additional value from that person usually doing that role and place them into a different role elsewhere. So fully agree with you, Vin. I think there's a lot more benefits to automation other than just saving money, even to a point of just streamlining the business processes, where you are in effect saving time through streamlining them, and therefore time equals money. So you're saving money in that sense as well. So
and becoming more competitive as well. Is there any questions in the audience? If anyone's got anything, feel free to unmute, unlike me, and ask away, or you can pop your questions in the chat. If not, we'll continue, please, Jamie. Thank you.
fantastic, of course. Now, as I mentioned at the start of the slideshow, there's a big element here to not just investing in money in IT, but just investing time and having that open mind in terms of different operating models for your company. And I am going to bring it up, guys. The work from home situation. Now, everybody has obviously come across a work from home situation in the last 2 years due to COVID. Some of us really enjoyed it, others not so much. But one thing I would say in terms of working from home is there's a massive benefit if you utilize the right technology, if you've got the right solutions in place and the right API feeds to monitor your staff performance throughout the day. You can literally have a full company working from home on a 24/7 basis. It is possible. I've worked for businesses myself. I'm currently working from home myself around the clock. I do go into the office periodically once or twice a month, but generally I work from home. Now, the benefit of this is if you do utilize the right technology and you have the right technology partner kind of guiding you through this transition, is first of all lower office space costs. So rather than having, let's say you're a 50-man outfit, you've got an office that caters for 60 or 70 people for that element of growing in the future. You may need to save money at this moment in time. And the biggest element that you could look at is implementing a work from home situation. So your staff members all go work from home. Let's just say they do 2 or 3 days a week at maximum. You could potentially reduce that office space from a 50-man office down to a 25-man office. You could utilize features that we mentioned earlier, such as Microsoft Power Apps, to create a desk booking system. So you can control the amount of employees in and out that office on a daily basis. So you're not maximizing the number of people within that office. Less people in an office comes less insurance costs, comes less energy costs in the office, less water, but also it also comes with less medical costs associated with the office space as well. So back in 2019, I've had a look at the statistics. There was a roughly a 5.6 billion pound injury cost payout through to injury in the actual workplace itself. Wasn't all paid by the employee, but the employee, which is very critical to remember here, did pay roughly a third of that total. So businesses roughly paid 1.5 billion over the course of 2019 for injury payouts in the workplace, which wouldn't happen if they were working from home potentially. There is an element of productivity gains as well. So and this all goes down to having the right people within your organization, but also having the right technology to monitor their performance and make sure that nobody is deviating away from their daily tasks, even when working in the comfort of their own home. So if you have the right staff, productivity can increase by allowing work from home. For example, that I've put here, there's no strolling across to a co-worker's desk for a quick 10-minute chit chat. There's no popping down to the kitchen or to the canteen to make a coffee, which sometimes, depending on the office space you have, can be quite a long journey. And employees don't really look at the cost of an employee leaving the desk, taking a 10-minute stroll down just to make a coffee and come back. They just think, okay, it's a coffee break. But on their journey back, they stop and have that chit chat with a colleague. How's your day been today? Very good, thank you. How are you? Before you know it, 25 minutes has passed, and that's 25 minutes that hasn't been utilized, delivering value for your company, delivering what you actually gain value from, selling your products, delivering that service itself. So there can be a productivity gain. But again, I will go back to the point of you need to make sure that you have the right people and the right technology to ensure that the people are doing as they should be on a daily basis and what you're paying them for. Another element of work from home, which can save you money in the future as well, is that reduced employee turnover. So I'm personally speaking from my own experience here, but since being able to work from home and have the comfort of going into the office once or twice a month or as and when needed, I feel much more at ease and a lot happier in myself of being able to work from home. And I can't speak for everybody. Some people love the office environment. Some people love having that kind of banter in the office that gets them through that working day. But really, by having a lesser staff turnover, you save money because we all know that when you employ new talent, they are good from a CV perspective. They maybe know exactly what they need to do in their role, but they don't know you as a company. And because they don't know you as a company, there's that kind of 1 to 3 and 3 to 6 month learning and grace period where they get used to the organization. They embed themselves within your company, truly finding their feet in order to operate efficiently. Whereas I'm sure you'd all agree here, having a member of staff for 5 years ideas, knowing what they're doing day in, day out is a lot more beneficial and a lot more productive having somebody like that than somebody who's just come into the role. Because even though they know the role, they've done it previously, they don't know your internal systems and processes. It's something that they have to get used to. So there's that cost saving element there. You know, you're more productive by having people stay with you for a longer period of time. And new staff does cost more, as I'm sure we've all witnessed that in the past. And I can hear what you're saying right now. People who don't like the work from home situation, who have the concerns about, is my staff member really doing what they should be doing? Well, technology is your answer here. You can make a small investment and you can build API feeds and business intelligence feeds, again linking to the Microsoft space with Power Apps and everything like that, that can give you real-time insights on performance. It can tell you how many calls your sales team's making per hour, per minute, per day. It can tell you how many sales they've made. It can tell you how many invoices have been processed by the accounts department. It can tell you the P&L of the company itself. All you need to do is ask a technology body such as ourselves, and we can look at forming them API feeds so you can truly have that holistic view on the company, even if you are dotted all across the UK in your own little home working offices. Vin, anything to add there?
Absolutely, always. You know me. Interestingly, we have a client who is probably 12 staff, and the majority of them are working from home. There is probably 1 or 2 office-based staff members. They have just agreed with their landlord to reduce their space in their office by half, saving them £40,000 a year. And the idea for them is their staff do love working from home. They're trusted to work from home. You know, there isn't that big brother effect of keeping an eye on productivity. The company sees it in their revenue and turnover and results on a quarterly basis. And those staff working from home, there's a mental health boost for them as well, being given that freedom. It means they're more flexible to pop in and out if they've got a quick doctor's appointment. They're not having to travel all the way from the office to somewhere local. And equally, at the same time, having those workers being able to hot desk when they do work in the office or visit the office is a wonderful thing. And actually, there's a lot of benefit and camaraderie and interaction with those colleagues when they do get together. And you'll often find that they're more likely to have lunch together and come up with new ideas, which help the business. And so people look forward to getting to the office and seeing their colleagues, which didn't happen before. So yeah, working from home, it's certainly a new paradigm. It's a new shift in perception. But equally, you know, some companies are even going down to a 4-day working week, because they know that the same amount of productivity can be generated in a shorter amount of time if people put their minds to it. And yeah, working from home, I think, is here to stay. You're quite right, absolutely 100%. And certainly investing in the technology to enable workers to have bigger screens, for example, or docking stations, I think is a great investment any business should be making in their staff.
100%, Vin. No, definitely, and I guess it goes back to the element of just having that open mind, just having that mindset of what if we could go to a work from home situation. Your office space itself, I'm sure you'd agree, if you could mitigate that 2, 3, 4,000 pound cost per month by getting rid of the office space, then you definitely will do so, as long as it's no detriment to the productivity or the operation itself. So, to be honest, guys, as I mentioned, it's a very short and sweet webinar. It's just elements on how you can potentially save money. We have reached the Q&A session now. What I'd like to do is open up the discussion in the forum. I have placed a quick question in there myself, just saying, is anybody looking to save money right now? Is it on your agenda? What I'd like for people to do is come up with some of the things that you're doing at this current time to save money, and we can maybe give you a few ideas on how technology can improve them ideas, improve that element, or how we can better that itself, how we can change things for the better and save you more money. So please do feel free to fire away in the chat, fire your questions across, and we'll see if we can help you guys out.
I'm conscious that we've got 5 minutes left of the meeting, so if you do have any questions, feel free to put your hand up or speak up and unmute. We're here to help. The idea is, you may not perhaps understand where the opportunities in your own businesses lie, to allow you to save some costs. It could be a simple user audit, for example, just making sure that the licenses you're paying for tally with and equal the staff you're employing. We see it very often where a staff member has left, yet their account is still active potentially, and also you're paying a license cost associated with that user's productivity tools, be it Microsoft 365 or anything else. So a simple audit is a good place to start, just to look at and observe and work out whether or not your user count equals what you're paying for. That's a great place to start, I would suggest, Jamie. I think as a company, we can offer that as a service. You can do your own audits. There's more detailed audits that can happen around what licenses you've got from Microsoft, for example. We've seen companies save 30, 40,000 pounds a year in Microsoft licensing costs because they've been buying the wrong thing or too many units of. And actually, if you're very clever and understand Microsoft licensing, there are nuances and ways to reduce your CPU count in your servers such that you're not having to pay those per processor licenses in a complex way. So yeah, there are potential savings to be had with a simple audit.
I fully agree with you, Vin. You know, the amount of situations that I have, especially in new business, where somebody's been looked after by a managed service provider or an IT manager for, say, for 5 to 10 years. They've literally, all they've done is added Microsoft licenses to an existing tenancy. Little did they know they're sat there with 10 or 12 spare licenses in the background, which they're paying, let's just say it's business premium, you know, £18, £18.70 a month, I think it is at the moment, give or take, you know, and they're paying that for 10 users. Well, that's £180 a month that people aren't realizing they're spending. So we've got
thousand a year. Yeah.
It is, yeah. We've got
question.
a message come through. Yeah. So what is the best comparison platform to Microsoft? So very good question, Ekona. To be honest with you, I don't think there's a way to really compare anything online. I think the best thing you could do is speak to somebody like myself or Vin, so we can have a look at what features you would really gain value from Microsoft, and then we can look at what licensing type would best fit your organization. And it may be that that license isn't the right license to have across the board. It may be that you need a couple of E3 licenses for certain users who have, you know, high responsibility in the company than others. You may need only exchange licenses for subcontractors, for example. So what we would really need to know is how you operate as a business at the moment, what type of users you have, what their daily tasks look like, you know, what their operation looks like, and then we can best recommend the license type fitted for your end users. Would you agree there, Vin?
Absolutely, 100%. And obviously, Microsoft is one of many platforms. There are other platforms out there, such as Google, but it all depends on what you're trying to achieve and what your users are used to. Changing platforms is very difficult because you get a staff reluctance to change. It's human nature. But equally, if the benefits of one platform outweigh the others, then certainly there's a business case to work towards adopting that. And we can certainly help guide you on that journey. I see there's another question coming from Christopher. Are there any cases where using the cloud is more expensive than operating an on-site server?
So, Chris, thank you for your question, and very good question as well. And it's quite a difficult one to answer, really, because there's a lot of things to take into consideration. So, for example, as I mentioned earlier in the slides there, on-site servers, you know, can cost anywhere between 8, 15, 20,000 pound. Let's just say it costs 10,000 pound for that purchase itself, and you expect a life expectancy of 5 to 7 years as a minimum. Now you divide that 10,000 pound by the amount of months with you know, within that 5-year period, and you'd work out to a certain figure. Now your cloud solution may be on a monthly basis 10 to 15 pounds cheaper per month, but the difference is, or if, you know, on the flip side, it could be a little bit more expensive. It could be 30, 40 pounds a month more expensive than what it would be purchasing a server outright when you work it out on the monthly expenditure. But with the cloud server, you haven't got that element of replacing a failed hard drive, replacing a RAID, replacing, any kind of peripheral attached to that server infrastructure. That is where the cost can be quite expensive. If you have to replace that hard drive 3 or 4 times during the course of a 7-year period, that's where the cost can go up. Whereas if you look at the cloud versus option, cloud is all taken care of. It's down to your MSP to keep that infrastructure maintained and keep it up to date. So any fixes for new hard drives, etc., are done in the background by us or your MSP. So that's something you don't have to worry about during the course of that kind of lifespan there of that server. So yes, Chris, there are elements where cloud can be more expensive from kind of that monthly cost perspective, but when you take the other elements into consideration, it can be more expensive going for the on-prem version. Now, what I would say is what Vin mentioned earlier, the elements of scalability. If you're a company with growth as a vision, you don't want to be investing in hardware on-prem, because for one, you may overspec that server to hit the required amount of growth within a year or 2-year basis. But you may not meet that rate of growth. You may be only 50% through achieving that vision in the first year, where at that time you've invested in the server infrastructure which is too big, it's too much for what you require at that time. Where with cloud, you can scale up on demand. So you let us know when people are joining, and we will apply that additional resource as and when you require it, and the cost will only go up when you add that resource to the server infrastructure.
That's wonderful, Jamie. I noticed here, thank you. I know we're short for time and we're running out, I'm afraid. There is a question that's come in from Akona. If it's specific to your site, Akona, may I suggest that we take your question offline? It's regarding the difference between potentially your offsite server and what you are using related to you specifically, and we'll see what we can guide you with or advise on. So if you'd like to drop Jamie an email directly, please feel free to. I've dropped Jamie's email address in the chat. So Akona, if you'd like to reach out to Jamie, I'm sure we can get back to you on that specific question. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. I hope you found today's presentation useful. I'd like to show our appreciation to Jamie for his care and attention in helping organize this event and presenting it beautifully, I thought. So thank you very much, and wish you all have a wonderful day.
Thank you all. Take care. See you on the next one.